Okay. First problem, number 3. Rationalize the denominator. Assume that all variables represent non-negative numbers and that the denominator is not 0. Okay. So we have the square root of x minus the square root of y over square root of 7x plus the square root of 3y. So what we have to do is we have to get our radicals out of the denominator. That's what we're doing when we rationalize the denominator. And so one way we can do that, if we have square roots in the denominator, is to multiply this thing by what we call the conjugate. Now, the reason why we would do this in this problem is because we have an expression, right, that has addition that's throwing this in there. So this is what we call the conjugate. That's the math word for it. You don't really have to remember that, but it's just, you'll know what they're talking about if a math teacher ever uses it. So notice what the conjugate is. It's just the same thing, except now I've turned this addition into subtraction. So that's what we're going to multiply this by, and you're going to see what happens. But whatever we multiply the bottom by, we're going to multiply the top by. So this is going to be the square root of 7x minus square root of 3y on top as well. So let's go ahead and multiply this. So the square root of x times the square root of 7x. These x's are actually going to come out. So this x comes out here, but because they were a pair, and now the 7 doesn't have anything else to come out with it. So that square root of 7 is just going to stay on top. Okay. Now we're going to do the square root of x times the square root and the negative square root of 3y, which is going to give us a negative. But this is just going to all be under this radical. So I'm just going to write it as the square root of 3x. Well, that all just kind of gets put together. Now we're going to multiply the negative square root of y times the square root of 7x, which gives me a negative square root of 7xy. And now the negative square root of y times the negative square root of 3y, these y's come out. A negative times a negative is a positive. And then the only thing left of that radical is the 3. So now we're going to multiply the square root of 7x times the square root of 7x. Anytime we multiply the same radical times the same radical, it just comes out from underneath the radical. And now if we multiplied the square root of 7x times the square root of, or the negative square root of 3x, we get the negative square root of 21xy. On this one, we did the positive square root of 21xy. And so those two cancel away. And so the only thing we really have to do is multiply the positive square root of 3y times the negative square root of 3y, which gives us a negative 3y that comes out. And so this is going to be our answer for 3. That's how we get there. Just by multiplying everything times that conjugate. Okay. Okay, now we have number 12. It says, in chemistry class, 6 liters of a silver iodine solution must be mixed with a 10% iodine solution to get a 6% solution. How many liters of the 10% solution are needed? Okay, so it says that we had like a barrel, or maybe they're just a little, it's a liter, so it's should be pretty big. Think about, this is like 3 2-liter bottles of Coke. So it's kind of big, but think about it like we got this 4% solution in this little barrel right here, right? And then in this barrel is a 10% solution. And so then we're going to pour it into this bigger barrel, right? And we're going to get somewhere in between, which is where this 6% comes from. Now, in this 4%, it says there's 6 liters. And now it doesn't know what's in the 10%. Let's ask what it's asking. How many liters of 10% are needed to get to this 6%? Now, since we got 6 liters here and we don't know what this is, when we add those together, it's just going to be 6 plus x. And so, like I said, we're pouring this. So once we add this together, it's going to equal this. So basically we got the 4%. I'm going to turn that into a decimal, which is 0.04 times this 6. And then we're going to add it to 0.10 x. And this equals 0.06 and 6 plus x. Okay. So now I can multiply this. We get 0.24 and then plus 0.10x. And then we're going to distribute this 0.06. This gives us a 0.36. And this is plus 0.06x. Now I want to subtract this 0.06x on this side. And subtract the 0.06x on this side. That cancels away on that side. Now I'm going to minus my 0.24 here. Minus my 0.24 here. So that cancels away there. So 0.10 minus 0.06 is 0.04x. And this equals 0.12. And so when we divide both sides by 0.04, we find out that x is just 3. So there's 3 liters in the 10%. Okay. Next, it says that a rectangular carpet has a perimeter of 180, and the length of the carpet is 24 inches more than the width. What are the dimensions of the carpet? Okay, so it says the length is whatever the width is, it's 24 more than that. So we can say W plus 24 is what the length is. And now remember, perimeter is 2L plus 2W equals whatever the perimeter is, and it says the perimeter is equal to 180. So basically what we're going to do is take this, since this is what L is equal to, and these are interchangeable, so this L is right here, so we could basically plug this in where that L is. So now our new problem becomes 2, right? And then we're plugging in this where that L is, so we're going to plug in the W plus 24. And then we're going to finish off the rest of the sentence, so plus 2W equals 180. So then we can distribute this. So this is 2W plus 48. And then we can add our 2W's together. 2W plus 2W is 4W plus 48. We'll subtract our 48 on each side. It leaves us with 4W equals 132. And then we divide both sides by 4. That tells us that W is equal to 33. And then we can plug in this 33 in where this is. So we're going to do L equals 33 plus 24. We got that from up here. And so we just add those two together. And so L is going to be equal to 57. Now we got Noah and Ben are running the Walker Street Fun Run. Noah runs at 7 miles per hour, Ben at 5 miles per hour. If they start at the same time, How long in minutes will it be before they're 1/5 of a mile apart? Okay, so we're going to do Noah's running at 7, and we're going to multiply it times the time, which we're just going to be x, right? This is going to equal his distance. And if we subtract it from the distance that Ben runs, we're going to do rate times time on his, that means that the difference is that 1/5 of a mile. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and subtract that. That gives me 2x equals 1/5. And so I don't like fractions a whole bunch. It's actually not too bad to just divide by that 2, which might be what you want to do. But I think it becomes an easier problem for a lot of people to see if we look at it like this. This is just going to cancel away the 5, so we're left with the 1. So now we can divide by 10, get a much simpler answer. And this might be a little strange thinking about this, but this is 1/10 of an hour. But the question asked us, how long in minutes will it be before they're 1/5 of a mile apart? Okay, so we're kind of in a bind here in the fact that we've got this expressed um, in an hour because we were dealing with miles per hour with these the 7 and the 5. So let's convert this to minutes. So one thing we can do is we can think about this denominator. This denominator means um, um, it's the part of an hour. Now, we know that 60 minutes takes up a full hour, right? So it would help if we could do this out of 60 minutes. That way we know whatever's on top is going to be our answer. Now, I can multiply 10 times 6 to get me there. That way it's out of 60 parts. And then multiply this 1 times the 6. And that's going to give me 6 over 60. So that's 6 out of 60 parts of an hour. And since minutes is in that fraction form, that's going to be our answer is 6 minutes. Not extremely easy to get that one out of that problem. Okay. Okay. A house was purchased for $66,000. After 5 years, the value of the house was 111,000. Find the linear equation that models the value of the house after X years. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, think about it like this. So the house was purchased at 0 years. The value was 66,000. And then after 5 years, it was 111,000. Now, if we do the math, we can do y2 minus y1. That's going to find our slope. So we get 45,000. We do that math. It's over 5. 45,000 divided by 5 is 9,000. Now we have something beautifully set up in the fact that this is 0, right? So anytime our x is 0, remember we're trying to get it into y equals mx plus b form. And this is exactly how b needs to come. We need to have a 0x, and that's going to be what we plug in as our b. And so we got our slope 2. That's all we need. So we're just going to do y equals 9,000 x plus 66,000. That's your answer for that. All right. The center form of a circle. Okay. Find the center radius form of an equation of the circle. Now, we have the center is 9, 6. The radius is 11. Okay. So the center radius form, this is on the back of your formula thing on the back of your review, but it says that it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So basically, when we find out what our center is, this is going to be what the h and the k are in the problem. So basically, just plug in these exactly where these letters are. Now, the radius is 11, but we're going to have to square that. So we're going to write it like this. X minus 9 squared plus, oh, I'm out of the range of the camera. Okay. X plus 9 squared and y minus 6 squared equals 11 squared. And now all we have to do is just square 11. So we're still going to get x minus 9 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 121. That's just 11 times 11. Okay, next one is, it says find the center and radius of the circle. So I'm going to try to get it into this form. It gives it to us, I think it's called general form is what this is. But we're going to have to convert it back to this form. Let me show you how to do that real fast. So we have x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 18y plus 40 equals 0. Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to move this 49 over here. So I'm going to subtract 49. Okay. Now I'm going to clear out room because we're going to have to take this and pair it up with our x's and y's together. So I'm going to do x squared minus 4x. And then we're going to get something else right here. And then we're going to go to y squared 18. We're going to get something else right there, and this is going to equal negative 49. Okay. So what we do here to figure out what this is we do it the same way we do the completing the square when we're trying to do square roots, when we're doing quadratics. So basically what we do is we take this number right here and we divide it by 2. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And then we're going to take that negative 2 and square it, which means it's negative 2 times negative 2. That's going to be positive 4. Now that same 4, we're going to add it to this 49. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with this and take half of this. That's a negative 9. And then we're going to square it to put that number here. So negative 9 times negative 9, that is 81. So we're going to add 81 to this side. That way we maintain equality since we're just adding numbers into this. Now this forms a perfect linear square. And the way we get this number is that number is what we divided. When we divided this by 2, we got a negative 2. So that's what goes there. So when we do this one, get y, and this was -9 that we got here. So it's going to be squared, and this is going to be equal to 49 plus 4 plus 81. That's going to give us 36. Now, so when we're looking for our center, same way we got to this one, right? The h and the k are the center. So this one's going to be 2 and 9. And then your radius is going to be, this comes as r squared. So we need to get it back to r. So we're going to have to take the square root of 36, which is 6. So 6 is our answer for our radius. This one isn't too bad. It says, is this a function or not a function? The easiest way to determine if something is a function is if you do a vertical line test and you end up crossing through 2 points on this graph, right? It doesn't happen here, but on this one we do. If we cross through more than 1 point, then it is considered to be not a function. So just draw you a line down and try to go through as many points as you can when doing a vertical. And if you can hit more than one, we actually hit it 3 times on here, which is really bad. Anyways, that would be not a function. Okay. Now we have a perpendicular to 5x plus y equals 5. Okay, so we're going to take this equation that they gave us. We're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to add 5x here, add 5x here. That cancels. So we get y equals 5x plus 5. And so this gives us our slope right here. Our slope is 5 of this one, but ours is going to be perpendicular. Now, we think about this like it's 5 over 1. Now, perpendicular is we're going to flip this thing over, and we're going to change the sign on it. So this 1 goes to the top, 5 goes to the bottom, and it's positive, so it's going to become negative. So that's our slope now. Okay. And then it also said that ours passes through this 5, 5. And so what we can do is use point slope form. Since we found the slope and we got point, remember point slope looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m, and then x minus x1. And so we can just plug in our x, we can plug in our y here, and then plug in our slope here. So this is going to be y minus 5 equals -1/5, and then we got x minus 5. And so let's distribute this. So we get to get y minus 5 on this side, we get a -1/5 x, and a -1/5 times -5 is going to be a +1. And then we're going to add 5 to this, add 5 to this, that way we're getting y by itself. And so we get y equals -1/5 x plus 6. That's our answer there. Okay, a lumber yard has a fixed cost of $2,758.80, and a variable cost of 74 cents per board foot produced. The lumber sells for $1.84 per board foot. How many board feet must be produced and sold daily to break even? Now, what we're saying on this one is that the revenue that we bring in has to be equal to our cost. That's how we break even. Is when our money we're bringing in is the same as our cost. Okay? So for that to happen, let's figure out how much we're going to need. Now, remember, it's selling for $1.84. $1.84 per pound or per board, sorry. And it's going to be equal to the cost. Remember, the cost is selling for 0.74, 74 cents per board, right? But also we got this another cost that's working in our against our favor. We got to spend money making these boards. So now we're just going to solve and see what this x turns out to be. So let's minus this 0.74 x minus 0.74x. All right, that's going to give us 1.1x. This is equal to 2758.80. And then we're going to divide both sides by 1.1. And then we find out that x is equal to 25. Oh wait, when we divide that. And that's going to be our answer. So that's how many boards we'd have to sell just to break even. Okay. This says determine the intervals of the domain over which the function is continuous. Okay. So you can tell that it's continuous because it keeps going in this direction and then it keeps going in this direction, right? So when it starts, it's going at negative infinity, right? And we're measuring, remember, domain's measured on our x-axis. So it's going along on this thing and continuing, and then it almost hits the x-coordinate of 1, but it starts to turn in, and actually it just keeps going up, and it never actually touches this 1, but we use 1 as kind of our benchmark for where it's saying it went to 1, but it didn't quite touch it, so that's where we're going to use a parentheses. Now this one actually started at the same thing. So this one left off almost touching the 1 on that side that was leading to the negative infinity. Now the one that's going towards positive infinity, it starts to build away from it. It's really close. I mean, it's right up next to it. And then it just, so it's touching 1 here. And then it goes all the way to infinity in that direction. So this is how we describe the domain of this. And the only thing we do more is just put a union sign between it. Okay, so that describes the domain. If we were doing the opposite, so this is the domain, and that's all really asked for, but just for a bonus, if we were doing range, we measure it from the bottom coming up, right? And it turns that way, right? So then we'd say that the range went from negative infinity, and it almost touched our 0. Remember, that's how we measure our range, is using the y-axis, and it did the same thing. It started back at 0 and went to positive infinity. So that's where we would say the range is. But like I said, all we needed on this one was just the domain. So just pay attention to what it's asking for. And so if it says domain, that's what you're going to plug in. Okay. We have f of x, f of negative 6 for f of x. We have two equations here. It says that we got 2 of x if x is less than -1. And then it says x minus 3 if x is greater than -1. Now, we just have to go and look at here what they've assigned x to be. They said x is going to be -6. So the one that meets the criteria for it being -6 is described with this stuff. So if it's greater, if it's less than or equal to -1, we're going to use this equation. If it's greater than -1, that means if it's 0 or 1, 2, 3. So this isn't, though. This was in the negative. So this is the formula we're going to be using, is this 2x for this one. So basically, we just plug in the -6 where the x was on this one. And so we do 2 times -6. That's -12. And that's all there is to that one. All you do is just find out which equation you're going to use, which was this one, and then plug in our number that it gives us. That simple. Okay. We got two equations. We got f of x, which is equal to x minus 8 over 9. And then we have g of x is equal to 9x plus 8. And then it says g f x is what they're saying. So basically what they're meaning is we're going to take this g and we're going to put it inside the f equation, right? So looking at this, it would be like we're taking this 9x plus 8. We're going to take that and put it into the equation of x minus 8 over 9. Okay, so we're substituting these things out. So we're going to have 9x plus 8, then minus 8, sorry, over 9. Now these two cancel away, and all we're left with is 9x over 9, and the 9's cancel away too. So that's just going to leave us with x, and that's our answer. Okay. Sketch the graph of the parabola. And so we got y equals negative x squared plus 2x minus 6. Now, one thing I like to do is use the vertex to figure out what this is. We could plug in numbers and find out points, but I want to know where this thing peaks. So I want to use the vertex formula. Now, the way to find what the vertex is to do negative b over 2a. And this is going to give us what our x coordinate is on our vertex, and we're going to plug this thing in and solve to figure out what our y is. Okay, so our b is what comes right here. So this is going to be -2. And remember, we got a 2 here, and so then we plug in our a, which is right here. That's considered to be a -1. So this is -2 over -2. This just turns out to be a 1. And so if we plug this in here, we're going to get 1 times 1, which is going to be a -1. And then 2 times 1 is 2. And then we got minus 6. So if we do the math on this, -1 plus 2, that's 1. And 1 minus 6 is negative 5. So our first coordinate is 1 and negative 5. That's our vertex. And so then what I like to do is I plug in this same thing. I'm not plugging the same thing. I actually plug in one less than that number and one more than that number, just because I want to be really close to my vertex and just make sure that my numbers can stay kind of small. So I'm going to plug in a 0 first. So 0 squared is 0 times a negative is just still 0. 2 times 0 is still 0. And so the only thing we have left is a negative 6. So when I plug in 0, I get a negative 6. Now let's do it on the other side of this one where it's 2. I go down one number and up one number from the vertex. So plug in that number there. Now 2 times 2, 2 squared, that's 4. That's a negative 4. And then 2 times 2, that's positive 4. So those two just cancel each other away. And then we got minus 6. So this equals negative 6 on this one. So we get negative 6 on that one. So for plotting it on our graph, our vertex is at 1, negative 5. So it's going to be right here. Then we're going to go 0, negative 6. So that's right here. And then 2, negative 6 is right here. So this is how this looks. All right. Next one says the number of mosquitoes, mx in millions, in a certain area depends on the June rainfall, x in inches. Of x equals 18x minus x squared. What rainfall produces the maximum number of mosquitoes? Now, once again, this is going to raise up and it's going to peak at the vertex, kind of like what we had happen in this one. So let's use that same vertex formula to figure out what this is. Now, if our formula is m of x equals 18x minus x squared, right? This negative 1 is our a, 18 is our b. So this is going to be negative 18 over 2 times negative 1. So this is just going to be 18 divided by negative 2. And that equals 9. And so that's our inches. That's what x was. We could actually figure out how much rainfall it produced. Or how many mosquitoes it actually produced if we actually plug it in here. But this is going to be our answer. Is 9 inches. Okay. Not sure if I was showing you that one. So next one. Okay. Express fx in the form f of x equals x minus k, q of x r for the given value of k. Okay. So this basically just means we're doing some synthetic division. Our k is going to be negative 1. That's what we're going to be dividing everything by. And so this is our first number is 3. Then we got a negative 1. Then we got a positive 2. And then we got a 3. So the very first step we do on this is we just bring down our first digit. We get 3 here. Then we take negative 1, multiply it times 3. We get a negative 3. And then add these up. We get a negative 4. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. And then we add these up. We get a 6. And then negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. And then 3 plus negative 6 is -3. And so what this means is we're going to have the answer. This is our remainder. This is our constant. This is x, and this is x squared. So we're going to have 3x squared minus 4x plus 6. And then we have a remainder of -3. So that's how we're going to write that thing. Oh, hang on, one more thing. We actually divided this out too. So what this means, whatever a k is, it's actually going to be x. And then whatever this is going to be the opposite. So it's actually +1, which is where our last little bit of information comes from. Can't forget to do that. I almost did. Okay. All right, so another one we're going to do is this 51. This says now k is 2i. And then we have some kind of crazy stuff going on here. This one is the x cubed is a 1. The x squared is 4 plus 2i. And then our, oh, hang on. That isn't what that is. We got to distribute this negative. So that's actually a -4 minus 2i. And then we got -5 plus 8i. And then we got a 10 at the end. Okay. So very first step, we bring down this first one. We get a 1. 2i times 1 is 2i. That was a -2i. These are going to cancel each other away. So we just got -4 here. 2i times -4 is a -8i. Those cancel each other away. So then we got a -5 left over. 2i times -5 is a negative. I'm sorry, that was a 10i, I believe. Yeah, 10i. That's a -10i. And so these cancel each other away. So then we don't have any remainder. So remember, that's our constant. That's our x. That's our x squared. So we got an x squared minus 4x minus 5. This actually simplifies out. Remember, we can do what multiplies to give us this back number, adds to give us this number. This is x plus 1, x minus 5. And then with this one, remember, just like we had in this one, we said it was the opposite. So it's going to be x minus 2i on this one. So that's our final answer on that one. Okay, that was it. Oh, one last one, sorry. The volume of a given mass. Let's see it. The volume of a given mass varies directly as the temperature T and inversely as the pressure P. P equals 154 in inches cubed when T is 140 degrees, and P equals 10 pounds per square inch. What is the volume when the temperature goes to 280 degrees and the pressure goes to 10 pounds per square inch? Okay, so this gives us our formula when it says that the volume equals as the temperature varies directly as the temperature and inversely as the pressure. And we're also going to have a K in this problem as well. That's a formula, sorry. All right, so the first thing it says is that the volume is 154 when the temperature is 140. This is 10. All right, so divide this by 10, we get 14K. And we can divide both sides by 14. We get 154 over 14. Oh, what am I doing? 14, sorry. And so we can reduce this fraction. This cancels away on this side, just leaves our K. And then we can divide both of these by, we can divide it by 14. So that's going to be 11. Let me double check that math real fast. It is 11. All right, so now we can plug that 11 into our new one. So we're going to figure out what the volume is when the temperature goes up to 280. This is times 11. And then we're going to divide it by 10 again. Okay. So we do 280 times 11. That gives me 1080. And then we're dividing that by 10. So the volume is 308. And that's your answer on that one. I think that's all we were asked for. Yep, that's it.